Hi YouTube, welcome back to Wtf Rc Cars. So we got a tiny little 7-channel breakout for the i-bus2 connectors, and basically what this does, it lets you take one channel from your receiver and split it to 7 channels that you can have set up for either PWM for servos. So you can take a 4-channel receiver. You've got 3 channels that you can use on the receiver, then you can set a 4th channel to be i-bus2 for this, and then it'll give you an extra 7 channels that you can control, or you can have as sensors, so you can run 7 separate sensors from it. It also does 3.5 to 9 volt. You can either power it directly using basically this cable, really thick chunky cable, so you can pull a lot of amps through it, or you've got a tiny little port in the bottom and you can power it directly, and then you just need to use the connection with just the ground and sensor. So let's bring you in for a close-up look and show you a few scenarios where you might want to use this. So let's run through the basics of connecting this up. Don't be too concerned whether this RC is the type that you'd use this in. It's just a very easy one for me to actually bring you in and show you what sort of connections you're going to need to be making on this. So we have the INR4 GYB. This could also be the FGr8b or 4b or 8b, so any of the enhanced receivers. So basically, if like this, you're running your ESC from channel 2, steering from channel 1, and say you've got a fan plugged in to channel 3 or some light control or anything, basically just leaves you one port that you can use for i-bus2. So we're going to be running this off direct power. So if not, you've got the tiny little plug that you can power it from, but then you'd be using this cable because you don't need to power it. We're going to power it direct from the receiver. So you connect one end to your i-bus2 interface, the other end you connect to whichever socket you're going to set to i-bus2. Now, just for his own sanity, I'm going to disconnect the fans on this because we don't want it screaming at us. But basically, that's how you're going to connect it up. Then you got your i-bus2 connections. So we're going to plug one into channel 1. And let's have a look what other sensors we've got. So this is going to be a crazy amount of i-bus2 sensors. So we'll plug a temp sensor into channel 2. We'll get our altitude sensor into channel 3. At this point, I'm pretty much running out of i-bus2 sensors. In fact, it's the RPM sensor we got into channel 3, and this is the altitude sensor going into channel 4. So we've basically got a breakout cable into what will be new port A because it's channel 4, and then we've got 4 i-bus2 connectors all into the i-bH07. So let's move that to one side and I'll show you how we configure the actual transmitter. Basically, what we're going to want to do is go into his model. As channel number definitions, we're going to want to set to 4 channel. Our radio frequency setup is going to be 2-way because you're going to want telemetry. Then we can back out of that. We can go into RX set, bind as enhanced, start channel steering. So we can turn that on. Put it into bind mode. The steering's back to front on this one. quickly swap the steering. So, how do we get our sensors on? Because if we go to a sensor port at minute and display sensors, we're only seeing the stock sensors because nothing's actually connected. You can see we got flashing lights on all the sensors and flashing lights on the i-bus2 breakout. If you try and go to i-bus2, it's going to tell you to set the protocol for the interface first. So, we need to go into RX set. You want RX interface protocol. Now, if you remember on the 4-channel receivers, NPA to D, D is channel 1 and A is channel 4. So we want to set that to i-bus2. And as soon as you set this to i-bus2, you see that the light goes solid, and it starts to go solid on all those little i-bus2 interfaces. Then we can go into i-bus2, so you can now see all your sensors appear. So if you go into extender, you can set it to be a PWM converter, in which case then you get it assigned to servo channels instead of i-bus2 interfaces. But you can see each device, and you can go into it and configure each device to be just as you need it to be. So that's where you'd set your time and calibrate your gyro. Then you can display your GPS. Obviously it's not really going to get much of a lock in here indoors. So the RPM sensor, you can set it so it can be motor speed or however you want to set it up. It looks like that's how many dots you have on whatever surface you're picking up. And then the altimeter we can set, that's its ID, current height. So if we then come out, should be able to display sensors. So all your zeros are the stock ones on the receiver. 7 is the actual hub, so you can see the voltage the hub's running off. That'll be really useful if you're using the little external power socket to power it. Keep an eye on whatever battery that's running off. Then 56 is all as GPS, 57's as temp, 58's as motor little speed sensor, and 59 is the altitude sensor. You can also set it on that, so we can see what everything's set to. So that is how you set it to be an i-bus2 hub. You can also set this to be a breakout for extra servos. So if we power it down, I don't think you can have it as i-bus2 and servos, but we shall see. Right, so to convert this to be a 7-channel breakout rather than i-bus2, basically we're gonna set as channel number definitions to 7, because we're going to have 3 assignable channels on the receiver itself, because the 4th channel is going to be i-bus2. We're going to have 7 channels on the actual breakout. Radio frequency setup is going to be 2-way. We're going to go into as bind menu. We're going to set it to enhanced, start at steering. Then we're going to bind it up. Our interface protocol is going to be i-bus2 on MPA, because we've still got it plugged into channel 4. Then we're going to come across to as i-bus2. We're going to go into as extender. We're going to select to set the PWM as a converter. So then you want to power down the RC. Power it back up. You got PWM converter, so we can go into that. Then we're going to set what we want all as different interfaces to be. So basically we can start from channel 4 because we don't have that assigned to anything. Then channel 5, 6. So once you work your way all the way through and you've set 5 to 10 as the assignable channels, it'll ask you if you want to set all the same frequency. So you press yes, unless you do want to change each specific one. Then we can go into our auxiliary. So once we go into assignment, we can go into channel 4. We can make sure that's set, and then once it's set, probably not the best one to demonstrate this on because it's going to be hard to see the servo moving, but it is actually controlling the servo. So if we go in and we set channel 4, rather than be on that, to just a button, that's easier to see. And you can do that for all rest of channels. So you've basically at this point got the 3 channels on the receiver, and you've got an extra 7 channels you can use on the breakout. Whether or not this is going to be more use to you as a 7-channel breakout or as a i-bus2 interface, that basically down to whatever you want it to do. But yeah, that is basically how you set up the i-bH07 breakout to be either 7 extra channels or 7 extra ports for i-bus2 sensors. So let's wrap this one up. So there you have it. It's a very simple and easy answer to getting 7 extra sort of i-bus2 connections for either running multiple servos or direct power servos. You can run up to 9 volt on it, and it lets you run as many sensors as what you like, what you'd need basically. I don't think there's 7 i-bus2 sensors. Not sure. Don't think there is yet. But you could use multiple temp sensors or multiple RPM along with GPS, and yeah, quite a tidy little package. But yeah, thanks a lot for watching Wtf Rc Cars. If you like this kind of content, don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, share to friends and family, and catch you guys again in the next one.